uh, goal or aim of a SALN. A SALN is a tool whereby we can monitor uh, the wealth, assets of our public officials. So it's a tool to fight corruption. So for me, as a citizen, it doesn't, the key issue here is when the public official bought the property. If he bought it in 2004, then shouldn't it be in the 2004 SALN? Or maybe in 2005 if it was paid for, I think, in December or something like that. But so I don't, it's not productive or enlightening to quibble about when to declare it in the SALN, whether you accepted the unit because it had debris in it. It's immaterial, impractical. What did Cuevas say?
Immaterial, irrelevant, impertinent.
So I think our basic understanding of a SALN requires that public officials declare when they buy property, so we'll know. It's not when they accept a unit, when they have paid for a unit. So that's my sense of when a public official should declare an asset or a property.
So, Attorney Asguerra of the defense was saying that it took time for Mrs. Corona to accept that property because, as you said, there seemed to be have been defects. There were defects in the wiring, in the windows. That's why it was delayed. And some people were pointing out, some of the observers were pointing out, it seemed to have been the second time that the Coronas had a defective unit. How do you think this all figures into this trial?
Well, of course, the defense wants to show that the unit was defective, as described by Attorney Esguerra, so that the acceptance was much delayed in 2008, so that the basis for declaring it in the SALN should be the acceptance. Okay, let's go with them and suspend our disbelief and accept that it was indeed, they were given the keys in 2008. Shouldn't that have been in the SALN of 2008 or 2009? But it only came out in 2010. Yeah, but for us, it doesn't matter whether the unit was defective or not. What matters is what was declared in the SALN, whether the amount was, the acquisition rather was declared, as well as the assessed value. And we have found out that not any single acquisition box was filled up from 2002 to 2010. So I think let's not be distracted by whether the electric wires were undersized or the debris of other units was piled in their unit. What matters is when the unit was paid and when the deed of absolute sale was signed.
Okay, and it seems this time discount wasn't an issue as pointed out by Senator Osmeña for the, at least compared to the Mega World property. So going back to the first issue of the day that they tackled was the Basa Gidote Enterprises. That didn't seem to have been resolved. Like there was no clear line where the prosecution wanted to bring that to. What was your assessment of that?
Well, as what was interesting though this afternoon was a piece of document presented by Justice Cuevas, which was a photocopy of a check paid to the Basa Gidote Enterprises, which represents the sale of a property in Manila. That's interesting because that's contested wealth. But let's see, I think the defense will prove or show that Mrs. Corona was part and was really an officer of the corporation. I think that's their line of thinking or questioning will lead to that. So I think we'll have to watch out for that because I'd like to get hold of that photocopy of that check.
That check. Okay, so the prosecution said 1 week to go for Article 2, but this week, do you see it finishing? Have they established what needs to be established in Article 2? Has the defense also raised the questions that should be raised so far?
I think in terms of Article 2, I think we've seen enough data on the acquisition costs of the properties, those that were declared and not declared, and what else? in terms of properties, which Rappler has mapped out quite well, I think we've seen the picture. So that that's why it is too, these things are quite peripheral. That's the debates that happened this afternoon seem to be quite peripheral, because in terms of properties, I think we've seen the picture.
Okay, thank you so much, Rappler Editor at Large, Marites Vitug.